Athletic Club, and we are all home under quarantine. Welcome to my home gym, which is also my garage and my laundry room and pantry and storage. It does it all, but I'm happy to have this space while I'm stuck at home. I wanted to make a little video for you. I'm assuming that we're probably doing a lot more sitting now that we're kind of stuck at home than usual. And so this video will just take you through some hip mobility and stability, some shoulder mobility, and then core engagement through it all. So really functional, pretty simple. I'm going to start with the most stable position, but then I'll kind of talk you through a couple ways to progress it or make it more difficult if that's what you're after. And then all of these would be considered stretches, but they're not passive stretches. So you're engaging certain muscles to open up other muscles. And so generally your active stretches are going to be a little bit more effective. You don't need much for this. You just need a dowel, preferably wider than your shoulders. A broomstick would work. And then maybe a pad for your knee if you're not on carpet. So I'll show you from the side to start with. All right, so you're going to be in a half kneeling position. So one knee down and one leg in front. Okay. Before we go any further, I'm going to have you put your foot a little further than your knee because we're going to shift our weight forward. So we want a little bit of length there. And then I want there to be about hip width between your front foot and your back knee. So think about how wide your hips are and kind of make it that far apart. Okay. Back toe can be tucked or untucked. If you have it tucked, there's a little more stability there. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is sort of set up my positioning. I want to neutral hips here. So I'm going to take my left glute, that's the leg that's down, and pull it underneath me. Okay. Tone that left glute. And then I'm going to take my belly and pull it in. Okay, this is going to create a neutral pelvis, a neutral hip, and I want you to maintain that throughout this first one especially. Okay. So maintaining that, extend the dowel out at chest height. Okay. On an exhale, keeping your neutral hip, you're going to shift your weight forward and raise the dowel overhead. Keep the shoulders down the back, belly pulled in, neutral hip. All right, this is going to open up the front of that hip. It's going to tone and utilize the back of that hip, but also coordinate that toning with the front here, so stability there. Common faults I'll see here is this is the biggest one, and it usually has to do with shoulder mobility, but it'll look like this. So you're trying to get that dowel overhead, but really what's happening here is my belly is just stretching out and I'm overextending in my low back. So only lift the dowel overhead to the point where you can keep that belly pulled in and that neutral hip. So once the low rib cage comes away from the front of the hip, you're extending too much in the low back. So it's just a little indication that you should not go as far overhead. Okay. The other common fault I'll see here is letting the hips open up, right? So you're letting the hips change planes and not keeping them square to the front of you. Okay. So that's the first one. You do all of these 5 to 10 repetitions, and of course you do them on both sides. So this next one, so you're going to come into that same position, half kneeling, setting yourself up, and I'm going to take my left glute and pull it underneath me. My belly's pulled in, shoulders down the back. And then I'm going to shift my weight forward and raise the dowel overhead. But I'm going to come out of that just a little bit. Right? So think of a dimmer switch, right? If this was all the way in, I'm going to dim it down to about 80%. Okay, so I've got still a neutral hip, tail pulled underneath me. Okay. And then on an exhale, I'm going to let my hip shift to the left as my hands stay overhead and shift to the right. Use an exhale, that'll help keep the belly in, keep the shoulders down the back. Common fault here is this. Don't let your hands go further than keeping them straight over shoulder head and the head. Okay, you'll feel a big stretch down the side into the IT band. You'll continue to feel that hip flexor stretch, and then of course that toning and engagement of the core and the glute. Okay, this next one. You're gonna keep the dowel out in front of you. Okay, and this one, the hips are gonna change planes, so they will open and close, okay? So, find that neutral hip, left glute pulled underneath me, belly pulled in, shoulders down the back, all of the things, right? And now I'm going to open up my hips. My hips are driving this movement, not my arms or chest. So the dowel is only going as far as my hips will allow my chest to go. I'm not twisting here, okay? I'm keeping the dowel in front of my chest, and my chest and shoulders over my hips. And then you're gonna come all the way through center. Pull that right hip back as the left hip pushes forward, allowing you to rotate over the hips. But again, it's not your shoulders rotating over your hips. Your shoulders and hips are staying stacked. It's the hips that are rotating, shoulders are staying over hips. Common fault here, especially when you're coming into the open position with the hips, is that knee. That knee will fall in. So just keep that outer right hip toned and engaged so that you're creating stability there. So don't get lazy in that front leg and hip. So you can progress these. You can come up off of your knee into a lunging position. Okay, do all of them from a lunge position. You'll find that it's a little harder in terms of load and balance. You can also add resistance bands to these. Really just doing the most simple version of it is a great thing to do throughout your day, multiple times a day. This is something that I do before my workouts and my running. And so if you liked it, comment, and if there's anything specific that you would like to have a video on, leave it in the comments and I will do another video. So I hope you all are being safe and you're all well, and I hope to see you at the club soon.